Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching the Arkansas Gun Guy. Today I want to talk about two of my favorite things, and that's the 1980s and Germany, specifically West Germany and the firearms that the police carried there. And that is, today side-by-side look at SIG's 6 Hours P6 and Heckler & Koch's P7. These are two of the three firearms carried by the police in West Germany in the 1980s. There's also a Walther P5 I don't own yet, but I'm working on that. But these two, I think, are fascinating guns, and I just want to do a side-by-side quick look at them as they were carried by the police in the 80s in West Germany. I've done in-depth reviews of both of them before. I'll try to post those links in the description below if you want to learn a lot more about them. But in general, the way these guns came to be is because before this, the German police force was always carrying underpowered rounds. I forget all the rounds they carried, but they were less than 9mm for sure. And after the 1972 Olympic massacre in Munich, it became painfully obvious they needed more. Now, they didn't really get anything done until the end of the decade. I think it was the late 70s when research and submissions started on a new program that had to have a gun that weighed less than 2 pounds. The length, I forget, was in centimeters, but had to be easily concealable so you can have a full-size gun, and that had to shoot 9mm. And so there was three companies submitted, actually four. Mauser submitted, they dropped out early. Walther, H&K, and SIG all submitted options. And there's several different criteria. Again, had to be concealable, had to be able to safely carry with one in the chamber. And I think they had to go 10,000 rounds without failures. And for H&K, their prior firearm, the P9S, couldn't do the 10,000 round thing. So we'll come back to that in a second. But SIG already had a fantastic platform with the 220 series. The 220 is a full-size gun that looks very much like this. And then they made a smaller compact version called a 225. They simply rebranded that the SIG Sauer P6, you can see here on the slide, and submitted that for their trials. Have a heavier spring in there, and they changed the hammer here to have this little this indentation on the back. So if it's dropped, the police armorers will know they need to take a look at the hammer. But that's the easiest way to tell a P6 from a 225, that and the designation of P6 on the slide. But that was SIG's submission, and it was the most simple solution. And it was actually very durable and relatively inexpensive to the others to make. And I believe this is the one that was adopted by the most forces and sold the most because it was also the least expensive. Now, the H&K, on the other hand, was totally different. I mentioned before their P9S, which they already had, wouldn't suffice for this trials, so they invented something totally new, and that is the P7. This is actually a striker-fired gun, where the SIG and SIG and the Walther were single-action, double-actions. The H&K was a striker-fired gun, but it was an all-new design. Their prior P9 had a roller delay blowback system that made it a very soft shooter, but also made it fairly heavy, fairly complex, and expensive. So they changed that design here, but still incorporated, instead of a Browning locking system, they did a gas-delayed blowback system with a fixed barrel in here. So this gun is incredibly accurate, very soft shooter. And the other thing you can do, again, I mentioned you had to carry the guns with one in the chamber, and the way SIG has always solved that is you insert the magazine in, back to slide, hammer's cocked. You can then SIG's decocker, and you have one in the chamber, and you have the big heavy double action pull as your initial safety. Kind of timeless feature there that most people use. H&K decided to do something totally different, and that is with the P7. Again, if you have a Hill magazine here, you insert the magazine, rack the slide, put one in the chamber, and then when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. Nothing happens at all until you squeeze this safety here. This is a squeeze cocker. So once you squeeze the safety, you can see the striker's fully cocked at that point, and all you have to do is just pull the trigger and it drops. This is by far, I think, the easiest gun to shoot very accurately, and also the safest to carry, because there's no way that you're going to compress this all the way and pull the trigger. So just a fantastic design by H&K that was the easiest to conceal, the easiest to shoot. The grip angle on this is just like pointing your finger. So very easy to get on target and shoot and stay on target. So H&K designed what I think is a masterpiece here. Problem is, it was expensive. So While the SIG may have been the most popular and best-selling option of all three, the H&K was actually the slowest selling and least widely adopted because it was fairly complex and relatively expensive compared to the others. So I think that this makes this guy more rare today. This guy on the used market is going to cost 2 or 3x, maybe 3 or 4x what a good P6 would cost. But I think they stood the test of time. They were born in the 80s. They're still relevant today. I love to shoot the 220 series, but I absolutely adore shooting the P7. It's just so much fun to shoot this firearm. So it's awesome that they're still great guns today. Love to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on the P7 versus the P6? Or even feedback on the Walther that I don't own yet. I'll do a video as soon as I can. But again, thanks for stopping by. Would love to hear from your thoughts on these firearms. Or the 80s, or Germany, or all the above. Thanks again. And if you would, please consider subscribing. Thanks.